Welcome back to LIS Movies. Today I will show you a comedy film from 2022. Titled Senior Year. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The year is 2022. And serious-looking Stephanie is ready to share her story on the internet through a live stream with the help of her widower dad, Jim. Behind the camera. It all started in 1999. Young Stephanie recently moved from Australia to the USA. And she's having trouble fitting in. Her best friends are Martha and Seth. But they're also part of the losers crowd, and Stephanie wants to be popular. She also has a crush on Blaine, who is currently dating Tiffany. Known for being the classic mean girl, after Tiffany embarrasses her in front of everyone at her birthday party. Stephanie decides she'll work hard to become popular. She changes her style, starts dieting and wearing makeup, and joins the cheerleader team. By the time senior year came around in 2002, Stephanie was incredibly popular, had become a cheer captain, and was dating Blaine. One morning, before going to school, Jim shares with her the last gift her mother got her before she died, a beautiful dress that Stephanie promises to wear at prom. Speaking of prom, Seth tries to ask her to go with him, but Stephanie is unaware he has a crush on her and misunderstands his question, thinking he's talking about the after-prom party she's planning to throw at Martha's lake house. Stephanie is desperate to become prom queen, and she's already mad that Tiffany convinced the committee to change the coronation song. This is important to her because she wants to have a perfect life like Deanna, one of their neighbors. She's a gorgeous woman who also was a cheer captain, dated and married a football player, got her name on the prom queen display, and now lives in Stephanie's dream house. When she arrives at school, Stephanie gets even madder at Tiffany after learning she's also planning an after-prom party and she's got to invite the football team first. Stephanie meets with Tiffany in the bathroom to demand to know why she keeps trying to ruin her life since she only started to date Blaine after they broke up. But Tiffany doesn't believe her and refuses to cancel her party. The two girls will now be competing to become prom queens. Later, it's time for the cheerleader squad to do their routine before a match. Stephanie has appointed Martha as their equipment manager, something the popular cheerleaders don't approve of. And Tiffany makes fun of Martha for being a loser. After Stephanie defends her friend, she tells the group she's made a tape of their routine so future generations can replicate it, which crosses the line into weirdness. Before their show starts, Tiffany decides to secretly ask some of the other cheerleaders for a little favor. Once the cheer routine begins, the performance goes well until Tiffany's friends step back and don't catch Stephanie after she makes a particularly dangerous jump, causing her to fall to the floor and be sent to the hospital. 20 years later, an adult named Stephanie wakes up from a 2-decades-long coma in the hospital room. Birthday cards and balloons are waiting for her, although she doesn't notice that the guy on the TV is a grown-up Blaine, who now works selling cars. Stephanie doesn't understand what's going on, and even passes out when she sees her reflection in the mirror. A moment later, a doctor explains to her what happened. She doesn't have a scientific explanation for this, but she's glad to see Stephanie is healthy. She just happens to have the mind of a 17-year-old in an adult body. The ones that come to pick Stephanie up are Jim and Martha, who have become their old high school's principal. During the car ride, Stephanie learns about modern phones and how the video of her fall has gone viral. Her embarrassment doesn't last long, though, because she gets easily distracted when Jim drives by her dream house and sees that Blaine is living there. Stephanie jumps out of the car and runs to ring the bell, only to discover that Tiffany is living there, too, because she married Blaine. Tiffany tries to show sympathy for what happened to her, but Stephanie accuses her of having stolen her life and leaves very angry, unaware that Blaine's peeking through the window and noticing she's still pretty. When Stephanie gets home, she discovers her dad never changed her room and even kept all her magazine subscriptions. However, her clothes barely fit her anymore, and Stephanie doesn't know how to deal with this new body. At that moment, someone rings the bell, and when Stephanie opens the door, she finds her class yearbook that was left there by Seth as a welcome gift. She ignores the pictures of Blaine and Tiffany as prom king and queen and concentrates on the messages left by her friends, even if they're treating her as if she was dead. Then, Stephanie remembers one of the last talks she had with her mother, who told her she was smart, beautiful, and funny, and she was sure her daughter would grow up to have the most perfect life. Determined to make her mother proud, Stephanie uses modern magazines to make a new plan. The next morning, she asks Martha to accept her back into high school so she can finish the last month she's missing from senior year and graduate. Martha refuses at first, but Stephanie reminds her that she's still 17 years old mentally and that she needs to close this chapter in her life. So Martha gives in and takes care of the paperwork, after dressing up as fashionable as possible. Stephanie returns to school and bumps into Seth, who now works as the librarian. She's happy to see him well. But the rest of the school changes aren't as exciting. Not only has the entire prom display been removed because it sends a bad message, the entire process of choosing king and queen isn't done anymore. Martha has created a school with no losers. But if someone wants to bring those traditions back, they'll need to start a petition. Stephanie starts to work on that. But when she goes to the cafeteria to gather support, she discovers there aren't any cliques either, just long tables where everyone sits together. Somehow she manages to find the new cheerleaders and sits with them, getting their signatures on the petition. But they explain to her that this won't go anywhere if Stephanie doesn't get support from Tiffany's daughter Bri. While there aren't popularity contests in school anymore, they still exist on social media. And Bri is a very successful influencer. At that moment, Bri comes over to welcome Stephanie and take a selfie with her. But she refuses to sign the petition. After she's gone, the picture appears on Bri's Instagram, where she asks everyone to treat Stephanie well because she's elderly. So Stephanie takes it as a mocking. Once classes are over, Stephanie joins the cheerleaders' practice with Martha as the new coach. She's disappointed to find out the new routines are bland and sanitized, with songs that talk about serious social matters with no dancing. There's also no captain, which frustrates her to no end. Afterward, Stephanie spends some time with Seth learning how to use social media. And when she gets home, Jim accepts her gift of a new phone. Stephanie spent most of the evening setting up her new accounts, so now she only needs followers. The next day, she asks Bri if she would add her on Instagram, but Bri turns her down, explaining she keeps the number of accounts she follows small for the sake of her mental health. Later, Seth finds Stephanie while she's doing her makeup and asks her to come to the movies with him. But Stephanie turns him down because she may be invited to a party that she can't miss. A few days later, Martha and Jim try to have a chat with Stephanie because she's so concentrated on catching up with pop culture and social media. She's falling behind on her classes, so Jim takes her phone but for the weekend. Later, Stephanie gets together with the squad to make some signs for their performance, and she uses their phones to see posts of Bri and Blaine at a party. Tired of seeing cheerleaders being left behind when they're supposed to be the cool ones, Stephanie decides to teach them a special dance routine to a Britney song. During the next school prep rally, Stephanie puts her plan into play. The squad begins with the normal, bland routine, but in the middle of it, they tear off the conservative uniforms to show the miniskirts underneath and proceed to show a more daring dance that only Blaine celebrates in public. Afterward, Blaine approaches Stephanie in the parking lot to flirt with her, but Stephanie stops him, reminding him he's married. This causes Blaine to confess he hadn't broken up with Tiffany yet when he got together with Stephanie the first time, breaking her no cheating rule. Upset, Stephanie leaves, reminding him he'll first have to choose if he still wants her. The next morning, Stephanie discovers her routine was a success, and now she has thousands of followers on Instagram and sponsors are sending her their products for her to promote. She calls her to her office to scold her, and Stephanie tells her the school is boring with all these changes. Now Martha must explain that she found a nice place out of school because, for most people, high school sucks. Stephanie doesn't believe it. So Martha points out how her experience as a popular girl makes her blind. She backs this up by pointing out all the times Stephanie bailed on her and Seth to hang out with the popular kids and even confesses she's gay, which made school a living hell for her and Stephanie never noticed. Sometime later, Stephanie sees a post from Bri saying her parents are going to the movies, so she goes back to Seth and accepts his previous invitation. At the theater, Stephanie loudly flirts with Seth to make Blaine jealous and annoy Tiffany, and Seth plays along. Tiffany calls them out for their behavior, and the scene she causes gets her kicked out. After the movie is over, Seth admits it was very satisfying to get revenge on the popular girl. Stephanie confesses Seth confirms it, explaining he never said anything because Stephanie has always thought of only Blaine. Even just now, when she used Seth to make Blaine jealous, it's the same trick she used to pull in high school, using his and Martha's attention to make popular kids crave hers. Stephanie apologizes, confessing she wants to be prom queen and to have a perfect life so badly because she can't disappoint her mother's memory. She agrees to spend the rest of the evening with Seth to show him she does enjoy his company. At the end of the night, Stephanie asks Seth to prom, and he accepts. Meanwhile, Tiffany asks Bri to get prom king and queen reinstated and beats Stephanie for prom queen. Bri can't believe what she's hearing since her mother is always speaking against gender roles. But it seems it's all a farce to fit in with current morals. Bri turns her down, but Tiffany makes her do it anyway or she'll cancel her vacation trip. The next day, Martha announces that thanks to the hundreds of people that signed Bri's petition, the prom king and queen have been reinstated. Stephanie is delighted, but she also needs to work on her followers' support soon, because Tiffany's already putting up posters of her daughter all over school. Later, Stephanie discovers that everyone has been invited to an after-prom party at Bri's except for her. The strangest part, however, is that Bri didn't know about this either, which means her mother is using her account. To counter this, Stephanie searches her old bags to find a copy of the key to Martha's lake house and makes a post announcing her party, which is free, unlike Bri's. To get an invitation, students just have to send a picture of their ballots voting for Stephanie as queen. Prom night finally arrives, and Stephanie wears the dress her mother had gotten for her, which fortunately still fits. When she makes it to the venue with Seth, she sees that Tiffany is in charge of receiving the ballots and is most probably rigging the election. To show she isn't scared, Stephanie still votes for Bri. Speaking of Bri, when she arrives, Tiffany takes her aside to explain she has the votes under control. She also gives her daughter a list of brands she must mention during her acceptance speech, tired of having her mother trying to live through her. Bri tells her to mind her own business. Blaine also comes to prom and tries to kiss Stephanie, who isn't interested but can't shake him off. Seth sees this and completely misunderstands the situation, thinking Stephanie has been using him again. Before she can explain, though, Martha appears on stage to announce the winners. Bri's boyfriend becomes king, and Bri is supposed to be queen thanks to the extra votes Tiffany added for her. However, Bri withdraws from the competition, so Stephanie is the one to become queen. After a night spent dancing and celebrating, it's time for the after-prom party, and Bri tells everyone to go to Stephanie's to get revenge on her mother. Tiffany refuses to accept this, so she calls the police and tells them there's underage drinking at Martha's lake house. When the cops arrive, so does Martha, who is furious with Stephanie for what she did. She had lent her the house 20 years ago. Not now, and even back then she hadn't truly wanted to. Martha thinks Stephanie hasn't changed since high school and keeps pushing her and Seth away when they were the only real friends she ever had. Stephanie disagrees, pointing out her hospital room was full of gifts from everyone. So Martha realizes Stephanie never opened the cards to see they were all from her and Seth, who were the only people that visited Stephanie at all. Martha and Seth decide to deal with the cops on their own and leave Stephanie to go home alone. Meanwhile, Bri calls her mother out for calling the cops and removes her from her social media. She also tells Tiffany that she's living through her daughter because she has a miserable life. And when Tiffany tries to deny it, Blaine cuts in and admits they're indeed miserable. Back to Stephanie. She's taken a lift home and is shocked to discover the driver is Deanna, who isn't living the perfect life anymore. Her husband divorced her before she even turned 30 so he could get together with a younger barista. So she was left with no credit or job prospects. And that's why now she works as a driver. She advises Stephanie to throw the crown away because all it got her was a spray tan and pretty hair. For the first time, Deanna wishes she would have gone to college instead. But she hasn't given up. She's studying now, and for the first time, she's looking forward to her future. When she gets home, Stephanie tears off the plan she had made and checks the cards from the hospital, confirming they all came from Martha and Seth, nobody else. The next morning, Jim shows her that she still has his love and support, inspiring her to start the live stream that takes us to the beginning of the story. Stephanie apologizes for being a bad friend and neglecting the two most important people in her life. She now understands that popularity and follower numbers don't matter. And from now on, she'll start showing her true self, because it's better to stand out and be real than to fit in like a fake. Her speech inspires some people at the school to find Stephanie's tape with the old cheerleading routine. It also brings Tiffany to her door to apologize, although actually, she's doing so Bri will unblock her. Stephanie tells her it's Bri who Tiffany needs to make things better with because it's not healthy to compete with her daughter. Then accepts Tiffany's apology before giving her the finger by working hard on her studies again. Stephanie gets to graduate with the rest of her class. When it's her turn to receive her diploma, Stephanie gives Martha a check to pay for the damage to the lake house, which she got by selling her car. Martha agrees to make up with her friend. expressing how proud she is of her. Afterward, the cheerleaders show Stephanie the surprise they got for her. They've learned her old routine and are performing it now for all the parents to watch. Stephanie dances with Martha and Seth, who are also dancing with them. So she joins them, even inviting Tiffany to join them as well. This time around, Stephanie gets to successfully pull the trick she failed at 20 years ago. After the performance is over, Seth asks Stephanie out and the two of them kiss.